Yeah, we often don't think very much about these forests, and people set them aside and think, oh yeah, it's kind of nice to have. But over time, they become increasingly valuable. We start to realize that as it encroaches and more people come in, this is the green space that's left. And for me, for the Nature Trust that are trying to set these aside, this is what the legacy is all about. That people before me had the foresight to set a piece of property like this aside, and now it's my turn to do the same thing and try to protect them. And it becomes the legacy, because many of the things that we do in our lives will disappear over the years, but this is going to stay here forever. What better legacy could you have? So this is the estuary. This is the salmon estuary, salmon river estuary. And an estuary is where the river meets the sea. And it has a tidal influence, obviously, because every time the tide comes up, the salt water comes into the estuary. With the river flowing off the mountain and drawing all the nutrients that are in the forest, all those rotting leaves and branches and things, all that kind of soil will move it eventually towards the river. And then it's swept downstream and it has to settle somewhere. And this is the place. So this is very rich. It's got all this rich soil. But we have another thing going on, and that's what makes this estuary particularly important. And that is that there are nutrients that actually go up the river. And the nutrients come in the form of salmon. And in another month or so, they'll be coming up this river, carrying in their bodies, of course, all that nutrient that they've got in the ocean where they grew and became the big salmon. They'll spawn and die, and then those bodies will be turned back into the river. The nutrients from those fish gather in the little pools, and that's where all these insects start to gather to feed on it. And then their young, when they hatch out of the egg, come down and start to feed on those insects. And so the whole thing is a big cycle. The nutrients are flowing back into the next generation. There are also bears that come down to feed on this, and eagles and lots of other animals. And when the bears come, they take the fish and drag them into the forest, and the bodies there decompose and turn back into the trees and all the lush vegetation. So all this vegetation that's growing along the side here is also part of this bigger story. They depend on the nutrients from the salmon to be so lush. And so it's all connected very nicely together. We don't have much of this habitat in British Columbia, maybe 3% of the coast or something like that. There's not a lot of it. So these ones are really important, and it really makes you feel good when you see groups like the Nature Trust buying up these pieces of land and securing them for future generations. Not just us, but the generations of salmon and all the other animals that live here.
The Antelope Brush Conservation Area is a crucial spot for conservation in the Okanagan. Top 4 most endangered ecosystems in Canada. It really only exists in the Okanagan from about Penticton south to the border. It is host to 50% of the Canadian population of the Bear's Hair Streak. And this is one of the narrowest spots, a real bottleneck of the valley right here. So as the climate warms, we want to keep these spots open for species coming from the south, moving north, or if they're moving north to the south. We need spots such as this Antelope Brush Conservation Area to remain in a natural state. So it's vital that we are able to protect and hold these properties in perpetuity.
It's been extremely satisfying to see more and more people join with us, open their pocketbooks, donate their time, and bring their friends along as we realize how much nature provides for us and how much good we can do in making sure that those habitats are available for our children and their children's children. Please consider making a donation to the Nature Trust of British Columbia to conserve and protect the landscapes and habitats that the species we cherish rely on.